To make your wild winter shawl, you will need the pattern, which is a very detailed 8-page pattern. You will also need with that the check sheet. If you want, you'll find this very handy just to tick off each row as you do it. You will need a 5mm crochet hook. I used Crochet More, that's my favourite brand. Plus you'll also need a couple of skeins of this beautiful Wild Wool by Erica Knight, and it's soft with a natural organic feel to it and it does work up beautifully. It has nettle in it, so if you're allergic to nettle, probably not a good idea. Maybe find yourself a pure wool or a merino, but find something that has a little bit of texture to it and it should work beautifully. So to make it a little easier for you today to be able to see what I'm doing, and because I only have a few skeins of wild wool left and I kept them in my shop rather than make yet another shawl, I'm using some yarn from my stock. This is Legom by Cartier, and it's a lovely soft yarn, and I'm going to make a shawl as a gift for somebody. So I'm killing two birds with one stone by doing this. So I'm beginning by giving myself a nice long length of yarn, and the first thing we're going to do is create a magic ring. If you don't know how to do that, it's quite simple. Wrap it around your finger, cross it at the top, hold it in place, yarn under, over, pull through, twist round, grab a loop, pull it through, and voila, we have a magic ring. As I say, if you want to see that in slower and more detailed description, please do check out my basics videos. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do on our winter shawl is chain 3. Now I normally count the chain 1 of my magic ring as my first chain, so I'm only going to chain 2, but you do it however you feel comfortable doing it. So we have 3 chains to begin, and that is going to count as your first stitch. Next we work another 3 trebles. I'm working in UK terms here, so that's double crochet US into my ring. I will be working in UK terms all the way through this video, so if you need to work in US terms, you can download a free conversion chart from my website, and the link is in the comments below. If you want to add a tassel, I'll show you on the original design that there is a tassel at this point, which is at the very beginning. Then don't completely tightly close your ring, just leave it a little bit open while you work. It'll be perfectly safe. As long as you haven't got too short a tail, it will not fall through. So now you have a total of 4 stitches into your ring. Remember, the first one counts as a treble, so that's 4 trebles in the ring. Now we need to turn. Row 2, chain 3. Again, counts as your first stitch here and always, and work another treble in this same stitch where you chained 3. Now I'm working in UK terms for this video. If you need to convert that to US terms, treble crochet is double crochet US, and double crochet UK equals single crochet US. If you need a conversion chart to help you work through this in your own US terms, you can download a free copy of one from my website, and I'll pop the link in the comments below. So next we're going to do our first crossed treble. So I'll show you how to do that. So you skip the next stitch and work a treble into the next stitch. It's always a little fiddly when they're so small, isn't it, this stage? But when it grows, this will be a lot easier. Now, I hope you can see that, just double checking my camera. To achieve this, what we do is yarn over, and then we're going to cross behind and work into the stitch we skipped. I'll do that again for you. So we've skipped a stitch here, and this is the one we're working into. So you simply yarn over, cross behind your work, almost like you're popping it out the front there, and just insert it into the skipped stitch, yarn over, and finish your treble as you normally would. And then in the last stitch of row 2, which is the chain 3 original, we're going to try and insert, if you can, under 2 loops. That way you get a nice even stitch row, and under 1 loop it tends to create a gap. So if you can, just work into the first 2 loops and preferably yarn over. So into the top of the chain 3 from the previous row, and we're going to work 2 trebles into that last stitch, and that is row 2 complete. So you have 2 trebles at the end, a cross treble in the middle, and 2 trebles at the end. And simply turn your work. Row 3. Row 3 is nice and easy. We're just going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch. So therefore we need to stitch 1 double crochet in every stitch beginning in the first stitch. So 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way along until you reach the end. And that is row 3. Row 4. To work row 4, chain 3, treble in the same stitch, that works as 1 increase. Then we're going to skip 1 and work a treble in the next stitch, and then treble in the skip stitch, crossing behind your work as you did before. And you need to do that twice, so we need to do it one more time. Skip 1, treble in the next, treble, working cross behind into the skipped stitch. Then simply 1 treble into the last stitch. Now you can see we have 2 cross trebles above the first one, and it's starting to form its shape here, looking really lovely. Row 5 again is simple, simply chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, 1 double crochet in the first stitch and each stitch along. And by this stage, at the end of row 5, you should have 7 stitches in your work. A little tip for beginners: if you're a beginner or recently learned to crochet, well done you. But if you struggle to find the first and last stitches sometimes of your work, always put a stitch marker in the first stitch of every row. So you don't have to put it in the last stitch, but you put it in the first stitch of each row. So that way we can easily count. So we'll count 7 stitches, which my stitch marker is in the first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So that is the end of row 5. So the first row, second row, third row, fourth row, fifth row. So for row 6, again, chain 3 and work an increased treble in the same stitch, treble in the next stitch, and then we're going to be working our crossed trebles again. And to give you some context as to what we're doing here, I'll very quickly show you. Because this works up the edging, we're working our edging at the same time as working our main stitches. So this is our neck edge and this is the outside edge. So we'll do the next crossed stitches, skip 1, treble in the next stitch, cross behind and treble in the skipped stitch, skip the next stitch, treble in the next, cross behind and treble in the skipped stitch. And now we are at the last stitch. Beginners, if you want to, just replace this again in your first stitch of each row. Just work 1 treble in the last stitch of that row. And there we have 3 trebles at the beginning, 2 cross trebles and a stitch at the end. And the next few rows are very similar to that, except you will be increasing the amount of stitches you do to work towards the end. So I will work that for you and you can watch me do the next 2 rows. This row is just double crochets all the way to the end. Not forgetting that on the double crochet row you have a chain 3 to work into. Try to work into 2 loops if you can. Row 8, chain 3, work an increase in the first stitch and then work a treble in the next 2 stitches, and then so on and so on. Each row that you work trebles and crossed stitches, you just increase the amount of stitches before you get to working the cross stitches. So I'm going to skip 1 here and work a treble in the next, cross behind into the skipped stitch, skip the next, treble into the next, cross behind into the skipped stitch, and work 1 treble into the very last stitch. For row 9, again, it's just a continuation of a repeat of double crochets all the way along to the end of the row. Just a reminder, that is single crochet in US terms and I'm working in UK terms. I'm working into 2 loops of the chain 3. Row 10, chain 3 and treble increase in the same stitch, and then 1 treble in each stitch to the last 5. And this is when we repeat our crossed trebles in the last 5 stitches. Treble in the last stitch. Pardon me, I'm losing my voice today. Treble in the last stitch, and we should have 10 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Always a good idea to do a stitch count at the end of every few rows, just to make sure you're on track and that you haven't missed one about 10 rows down, because that would be heartbreaking. Don't believe me, I've done it. So continuing on from here, you will continue to repeat rows 9 and 10, ending on row 18.